G'day Bomber fans, how good is the draft? We've landed the player we all wanted to land. I highlighted Caddy in recent videos as the ideal choice for a player for us. He was always set to fall before our first pick, so we had to work to bring him in. This is fantastic. I'm over the moon with this. I will quickly talk about Caddy, talk about what we had to give up to get him, so let's get into it. So there were some interesting selections inside that top 10, some more outside the top 10, but we won't talk about that. It was a crazy round one, really. But those selections inside the top 10 allowed us to get this done. For starters, Hawthorn grabbed Nick Watson, which meant Curtin slid, then teams were scrambling to trade in to get him. The Crows got him, huge get for them. From there, Melbourne got Caleb Windsor, outside winger, bit of a bolter but not unexpected. They were actually predicted to do that by Cal Toomey, but that meant the Cats were set to pounce on Nate Caddy with pick 10. We said no, we traded for him, gave up quite a bit, but I think it's worth it. So what we did is swap our picks, pick 11 and pick 10, because the Cats would have got him with pick 10, and we also gave up our next selection, pick 31, and got nothing back. So now we only have one second round pick, but I think it's worth it. I think we would have tried to get Logan Morris with that pick, who is a far worse option than Caddy, who is one of the best players in the draft. Everyone had him in the top 10, some near top 5. So that's what we gave up to get him. Let me know what you think down below. I personally love it. I would rather us trade up to get Caddy, who is not only a best available option, but ready-made and fills a need for us, instead of getting O'Sullivan or Leake, who I've also highlighted in the past, who are also really good players, but fill roles and positions easier to find for us as a club. I think this is terrific for from Dodoro. So let's talk about Nate Caddy. What will he bring to the club? He's a self-proclaimed power forward. He's 193 centimeters, undersized, but as I have said plenty of times, he uses that to his advantage. Many key forwards that are undersized let it weaken their game. I think Caddy has done really well to use his mobility to ensure he is a threat on ground level. He can run big key backs around, but is far too good in the air to play on general defenders. So he's a really frustrating matchup. It's a head-scratching one for opposition coaches. He has been all year. That's why he has the label of power forward. But I would say, I'd say personally a key forward. He's a marking target inside 50. He's got really great hands. He's good in the air, good contested mark. He's a great leader, as in he leads well. You get what I mean? He's been compared to Charlie Curnow a lot, and it's easy to see why. He isn't tall for a key, but is imposing. He feels taller than he is because of his leap and timing. The guy clunks them for fun. He possesses that X factor, which I love as well. The guy loves big games, loves big moments. He lights it up sometimes. He has wreaked havoc. He kicked 4 goals from 21 touches against Oakley, one of the more successful Talent League teams in recent years. He kicked 4 from 20 against Sandringham, who we all know, but his best game was just outrageous. It was 6 goals from 25 disposals, 4 behinds as well against Bendigo. It shows he is dangerous around the sticks, really dangerous. He can kick a bag, but he also pushes high up the field to get a lot of the pill. He isn't a stranger to double digits at all. He is mobile enough and has worked on his endurance a lot, which means he can play as a high half forward early in his career. I'd be worried if I was Harry Jones, because that's how he plays. But going back to his endurance, it was a weakness of his early. There were question marks over his work ethic and his tank, but he made it his mission to improve it, and he did. He had a 2K time trial of 6 minutes 30, somewhere around that range. It's not extraordinary, it's not incredible, but for a key forward, it's ideal, and it shows he is headstrong enough to work on his weaknesses. I should talk a bit more about his athleticism. I've spoken of his leap and his range through his arms. He can take a mark high above his head. He is very quick as well for his size. It's allowed him to play midfield minutes at times. He doesn't show as much in the guts, but it's something. His agility as well. That is something people don't talk enough about. The guy was top 10 in the combine for the agility test, which I think is a great trait to have for a key positional player. Aside from his scoring ability and his power and his explosiveness, he is incredibly athletic and not skinny. He isn't a Zach Reed or a Nick Cox. He has some muscle on him. He can definitely play next year. He's not a project player like O'Sullivan would have been. The guy lined up for Carlton's VFL team against Williamstown, a really good defense in the VFL, and kicked 2 goals. That shows he is almost ready to play AFL next year. He didn't take time to settle in. He had an impact against grown men in his first game, which is more than what some players in this crop can say for themselves. Onto some weaknesses, because he's not perfect. He'd be pick 1 if he was perfect. I'd say that the main thing holding him back is his consistency. I often said that on my other channel, that Caddy at his best is a top 3 player in this draft, but he isn't always at his best. He follows up big games with small ones. He can go missing if things aren't going his way. It's hard to consistently kick 5 goals, but he kicked 23 3 goals from 9 games in the Talent League. He kicks 6 from 3 in Champs. He averages a good amount of goals, but a lot of that comes from his big hauls. If he can bridge his best and worst a bit more favourably for us, he can be a real star. His upside is huge, but he needs to fix his consistency. Overall, though, I think this is a massive win for us. It's what we needed, a good key forward option. He isn't a big bullocking key forward. He isn't 2 meter Peter, but this kid could be something really special. His upside is arguably larger than those picked ahead of him. I'm not just saying this because we grabbed him. I have said it all year here and on my other channel. He is a really exciting prospect, and we should be thrilled we have him at the club. It's a great get, even if it means we lose a second-round pick. I know plenty of us fans are thrilled about this as well. I may as well highlight what we could do tomorrow night, or what could happen tomorrow night to end the video real quick. So right now we have pick 39, which sounds like a bad pick, but there are plenty of options still. That's fallen down a lot because of all the match bids. There have been more than we thought, and I and many thought there would be the round would end with pick 27, but it went out to 29. So there are 10 more selections and plenty of players yet to be picked before us. Somehow Ollie Murphy is still on the board. I don't know how. I doubt that lasts long. But then there are others like Ari Schoenmaker, Lamont Lawau, Tao Jath, Archie Roberts, that's a big one, George Stevens, Mitch Edwards, Jack Deline, Angus Hasty, players I've spoken about on this channel that I didn't think we'd have access to. And there's plenty more as well that I'm forgetting about. So we can still get someone decent with pick 39. And after that, it's a late selection, which isn't a bad one to have in this draft. We can go for a project player with that. So tomorrow night's going to be really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what we can do. It was always a really hard draft to judge, but that first round proves all clubs view players differently. Adelaide selecting Oscar Ryan was wild. GWS grabbing Phoenix Gothard. So we could see some really weird stuff happen still. I'm keen. I'm pumped. Great first night for us. Hopefully tomorrow night is just as good. But that is that. Let me know what you think down below. It's really exciting. Welcome to the Dons, Nate. You are already a favourite amongst the fans, it seems. It was a dream scenario for us getting him, and somehow it's happened. We should all be thrilled. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new, and as always, go Bombers.